Hello everyone, welcome to the final presentation of containerizing Blue Prism application using Docker. Like other videos, I have some pretty interesting topics to discuss in this session. So let us quickly have a look at the agenda. So today we'll start with building the base image, the same image which is hosted in my Docker Hub account. It is nothing but Blue Prism install on top of Windows Server Core. Secondly, we'll see how to secure our communication using the available options in Blue Prism. And finally, we'll discuss the merits and demerits of this architecture and we'll see how we can proceed from here. But before I do so, I like to take an opportunity to say thank you to my own company Avanad for being so supportive during this course of time when I did so much of research on building this architecture. Thank you so much, Avanad. It was so nice working with you. So let's get started with the base image first. As I told you earlier, we'll be using Windows Server Core 2019 to build this image. So we'll be using that as our base image. And on top of that, we'll be installing .NET Runtime first, and then we'll be installing Blue Prism 6.6 MSI. And finally, we'll copy few scripts that I have created to install certificate and to monitor the services. The scripts will be available in my GitHub account. Okay, so let's get started. For easy reference, what I have done is that I have created a step-by-step guide mentioning all the steps and the configurations that you need to do to build this image. The first thing you need to do is that you need to create a Docker file, and the information is here. So you can directly copy this information and put it in your Docker file and then compile the image. So let me give you some details about the Docker file. So we are using the Windows Server Core LTSC 2019. You see that is the first line. Second thing is that we are actually copying the file. That is our second section. And finally, what we are doing is that we are installing the .NET runtime. This is the .NET runtime exe, and we are copying the batch file and the ps1 file. These are our scripts to the respective directory. Okay, so finally we are installing the .NET first. So this is the command. These are the commands basically for the .NET installation. And once the .NET installation is done, we are installing our Blue Prism MSI. And that is the end of the creation of the image. So when we will start, you'll see that it is going to do the same thing and it will give us the image that we have hosted in our Docker Hub. So to start, what we'll do is that we'll copy the content from here and we'll put it in the Docker file in our machine. So we're putting the same content in the Docker file. We'll save this file. So in the same directory, make sure you have the remaining dependencies like .NET, Blue Prism, and other scripts. Okay. So before we start, let me show you the images that we have. We have downloaded Windows Server Core LTSC 2019 already because we would need that to start building our new image. So let's go to that directory first and we are gonna execute the command docker build. The same command is available in my document as well. So I'll just copy that command and I'm gonna execute the same thing here. So one interesting thing, how Docker does this compilation is like this. It creates some intermittent containers and it will execute the steps or the commands that you have provided in the Docker file, and it try to keep saving those containers as an image. And once all the steps are over, then the final image it saves, it will tag it against the name that you have given. So let me show you that even though our system not supposed to have a container, but if you run a command like docker container ls, you'll be able to see some intermittent containers that the Docker compose or Docker build is trying to pull up. And you will see the command section and it is executing those commands. It will show up. Now see, it was up for a few seconds. Now it is gone. That means Docker is done with the command and it saved the state of that machine as an image, and then it will delete the container because it those are intermittent containers. Now the next thing it's gonna do is that it is gonna execute in another step and it is gonna bring up another intermittent container, and that is how it actually finishes the execution. The lengthiest step would be the installation of .NET because it is gonna take around 5 minutes plus time. So during that phase, I'll pause the video so that you don't have to wait for that much of time. Okay, so let's wait for that part. Okay, the system has started the installation of the .NET. As you can see, it is going on. So now I'm going to pause the video and we'll resume after the installation. So we are back again. The installation has completed and the system started the installation of Blue Prism MSI. So let's see. This one takes around 1 or 2 minutes time. So we'll wait for the execution to end. Okay, so it is running the final stage. So it is removing the unnecessary MSI and the .NET executable from the system because that will unnecessarily increase the size of your container. So I'm removing them. So we are done now. Successfully it is finished and we got the required image that the same image is published in the Docker Hub. Okay, so we are done with the first stage of our agenda. So let's proceed with the second part. Once we have the base image created and uploaded in Docker Hub, the next step is SSL enablement or securing communication between the server and client. Blue Prism support 5 different connection mode, out of which 0, 1, 2, 3 are considered as secure communication, 4 and 5 are insecure communication. In my testing, I'm able to successfully integrate my client with server in communication mode 0, 1, 2, and 5. So I believe 0 and 1 are the most preferred one because 0 supports message encryption with Windows authentication and 1 is transport encryption and Windows authentication. I believe these are the two most important ones, and fortunately I'm able to achieve both of them. Remember, we need to do two things here. We need to make sure that our containers are capable of allowing Windows authentication, and second thing is that enabling SSL communication. So these are two separate things, and you should address them separately. So for Windows authentication, basically containers require GMSA account. This is for specifically for the Windows containers. For SSL, you need to have a certificate authority and certificates created. Docker has a very good documentation related to that, and I believe you should refer to the site I have given in this slide. Let me show you the websites as well because sometimes people get confused. So first is the Windows authentication and this is the GMSA account. I actually followed all the steps given here till the bottom, though I used a different username. Only thing I skipped is the last part because this is related to their application, whereas my requirement is to integrate for Blue Prism. Okay. The second link that I have given is nothing but secure service with TLS. So this is Docker documentation, Docker's website. Docker suggests two types of communication. One, let proxy handle it, where the communication between the client and the proxy is secured or over SSL, but proxy to app is insecure. This has few limitations. So what I have decided is that I skip this method and I right away use the second option that that is nothing but let your service handle TLS. So here the TLS part is handled by application, which in our case is Blue Prism server. So because we wanted to use those connection modes, that's why I did it. So our one is end-to-end TLS, and the good part is that Docker has provided some sample Docker compose file, which comes very handy when you build your own Docker compose file. So in our case also I used the same file. I copied the content there and modified as per my need. So let's come back to the system. So as I showed you earlier also, that we have created our base image. So we have this image now, which has the Blue Prism and .NET installed. So now we are going to create our final image. And let me tell you that without creating image also you can actually do it using secrets. But I found some flaws with that when I attach the certificates. Might be you find a better way to share the certificates, and that's why I'm creating the image for the time being. So if you look at the Docker file, as we are creating the image, so we need to create a Docker file. We're doing nothing but just copying the certificate files. So as the certificates are site specific, so I'm creating a separate image. But again, I'm telling there are ways to share the certificate or files as a secret to the image. I tried that. I had few issues. Few times it works and few times it fails. So I'm going with a new image method. Okay. So the Docker file is here. So what we are going to do is that we are going to go to this folder. Okay. Before I build, let me show you the other things. So what are the certificates we have? So we have this certificates. You can keep any of these names. So this certificate and this certificates are same. So I have given this name as my so it is install, it is asking me to install it. Basically I can I'm removing the unnecessary one and just keeping this one. Okay, so if I keep this one, the only thing I need to change is the environment file. My environment file is actually keeping all the details, that what is the certificate name we are copying. So basically our certificate name is bpserver.toolswithben.com.pfx. Okay, and root one is that one only. So I'll come to this environment file later, but right now the Docker file is basically gonna copy these certificates inside. Okay, let us execute that command so that we can have our Docker file created. So, okay, so again it is gonna create that. It is not much, only just copy the files. So if I give Docker images, you see that we have the new image available in the system, BP server secure 6.6. So once the image is ready, the only thing that is left out is the Docker compose file. I'll publish it in my Docker Hub account because it's a long file. I'll try to give some explanation there itself. Last but not the least is the environment file. So basically you can pass all the config parameters for your Blue Prism server through this, like SQL Server, connection mode, DB name, those kind of details you can pass. So if you keep it in a config file or environment file, you can change at any point of time. Moreover that you change the environment file and you rerun the containers, the container will come up with new configuration. That is the beauty of it, and I found it is quite handy. So you can very much pass all this information via secrets, but I found this way you can very well manage it and you can change also very quickly. Okay, so there are ways to have some apply some security on top of this environment files as well. Okay, so now for our purpose, the final part, the demo, we are trying to start 4 replicas of the Blue Prism server this time, and we wanted to see how the system behaves. Okay, The remaining part of the video I have separated from the main video because the size is becoming too big for me to upload it. So this is the end of part 1. At least at the end of part 1 you know how to create the base image, that is Blue Prism installation on top of Windows Server Core. Also you understand what are the requirements for SSL enablement and Windows authentication. All we need to do in the remaining part is that testing all those connections and see whether we are able to connect or not. We wanted to revisit if any problems are there when we communicate with multiple instances of Blue Prism running in Docker mode, and obviously the final verdict whether it is advisable to go with this architecture or not. Okay, so we'll continue later in the remaining part of the video in part 2. So stay tuned. Thank you so very much, and sorry that I had to break the video in 2 parts. Hope to see you in the next part. So till then, bye bye and have a good day.